it's Dorothy guiding with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm here for the Scrapbook Nerd online shop, and I'm going to be creating a 12 by 12 layout featuring Vicki Boutin's Fernwood collection along with the Woods paper pack from Simple Stories. The video is part 2 of a 3-part series, one sketch, 3 ways. And the first video is linked below, and number 3 will be on YouTube later in September. So here's a sketch I've been using. It's a Milena Whittiwith sketch. She is a sketch artist for the Scrapbook Nerd. You can find her work on Instagram and the Scrapbook Nerd Friends Group Facebook page, and I will put links below. Also, if you're tuning in between September 9th and 11th, 2022, it's Fall Fest over on the Facebook page. So there are prizes, challenges, and tons of inspiration. Head on over. Again, the links below. Finally, here is the material I've selected. I have leftovers from Vicki Boutin's Fernwood collection, along with wood grain paper from Simple Stories. And all of this came from the Scrapbook Nerd online shop. So the link to the shop, along with the products I use, will be listed as well below. So without further ado, let's get started. I did prepare a frame style foundation page in advance with 2 sheets of paper. I gutted one of them. There is a tutorial on my channel where I explain how to do that, so that will be linked below. I matted 2 photos. Now I'm showing you the paper I've selected. And here are a pile of scraps from the Fernwood collection, just in case. I also have a pile of scraps of wood grain paper from the Simple Stories Woods paper collection. I never throw any of that away because the flip side is what I use for journaling most of the time. Also, I have these alphas. These are from Simple Stories. And in this tray, I have a bunch of embellishments. Now, the main part of my embellishment clusters are going to be these fussy cut leaves. Basically, I took that leaf paper from the Fernwood collection, cut it in half, and I cut up a bunch of those leaves. I also cut up some little tiny acorns. Now, I am a horrible fussy cutter. I don't like doing it, but that was really easy. And in the spirit of things, in the Fernwood collection, I saw this scrap with like half a rose, so I decided to cut that out as well. Showing you the other things I have. I have ephemera, cut-aparts, chipboards, some stickers, and I dig into all of that a bit later on. Now, before jumping into the process, I just want to show you the page I already created using this sketch. So there's the sketch, there's the page. I basically flipped it 90 degrees, and I'm going to do the same thing today, but there will be differences. I am using 2 photos instead of 1. I'm also using very different material, so it's going to change up the mood and feel. And the journaling is going to be different. I'm going to be using this stencil from Dilutions, and I will talk about that tool later on in the process. The first thing I'm going to do is create my layered photo mat. So you see the sketch there up in the top left-hand corner, and there's a bunch of papers underneath the photo. So that's what I'm creating right now, and it's super easy for me because I already did it. So basically, I am just repeating the same sizes. And that's one thing about reusing the same sketch. I find anyway, it gets easier the more times you use it. Now here I go cutting out that half circle. So I am using the Jumbo custom cutting system from Creative Memories, or I should say the custom cutting system from Creative Memories. I'm using the Jumbo circle. I cut out the inside of the circle with the green blade. And measurements for all of these page parts will be posted on the screen a little bit later in the process. Now what I want to do is just play with this layered photo mat a bit. So you can see I have the main parts down, but I have all of my scraps handy. So what I want to do is just add a few layers. Now this isn't on the sketch, but my sketch is the jumping off point. Now what I'm doing is just making this layout mine. So I basically select some wood grains from my scraps. I also select a few different pattern papers from the Fernwood collection. And now all I'm doing is kind of additioning a combo here. So I have some wood grains in different colors. I do end up using one of the pattern papers from the Fernwood collection in the vertical border, but that one stays for a while but eventually gets dropped. And at this point, when I'm happy with the combo, I'm just going to trim them down. Now I don't have a pattern here per se. All I'm doing is trying to cut these strips of paper in different widths and different lengths. I will put measurements for what I'm doing on the screen, but keep in mind when I was doing it, I was just kind of winging it, so you can do the same thing as well. I am now applying a bit of ink to all of these page parts before adhering, and the color I'm using is Morning Mist by VersaFine Clair. It's just a fun thing to do anyway for me when I create layered photo mats. I like to make them look like they all belong together by just applying a bit of ink. So once again, I am building my page design, the backwards L with that semicircle in the middle. And here I go, layering up that vertical border there, just looking for something that pleases my eye. And I do incorporate that striped paper, but like I mentioned, it gets dropped later on. So I put the photos there. I'm also thinking at this point, I need to place my title somewhere. And this is where the placement of my page parts starts changing up a bit. The actual page itself starts changing looks here. Now there's two things I know. I want my title to just fit on that wood grain paper underneath the horizontal photo, or that's what I'm thinking at this point anyway. I also want to be able to stencil on 3 blocks from this stencil underneath that shelf so that I can do my journaling later on. But in order to do that, I had to move up that horizontal border. So you can see the original page, the horizontal border is much more towards the bottom than the page I'm creating today. But I'm starting as well to not like my title. That's why you see me additioning more paper, basically to build on that horizontal shelf. So I'm putting a contrasting color of that wood grain paper underneath. Then I'll put my title on top, but I decide that's not the solution either. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with my title at this point, to be perfectly honest. I try a few things, but nothing seems to look right. So what I decide to do is just adhere my page parts on the foundation page, and then I'll worry about my title later on. And the only important positioning here was the horizontal border. That's why you saw me take out a pencil, because I wanted it high enough in order to accommodate my stencil blocks underneath. So now I'm adhering all of these pieces to the page, including the photos. And then what I will do is get out all of my embellishing. So you can see I have my title there on wax paper. I also kind of tidied up my embellishments. I'm going to show you this tray here. I basically put my leaves in piles by color. I have a little pile of fussy cut acorns. I have that fussy cut flower, a bunch of ephemera pieces, and my stickers from the sticker book on this tray. I also, to the right there, you can see I have a chipboard pack. That one's falling apart and well loved, but I do end up using a few pieces from it. I have a few scraps handy just in case. I have a tiny attacher. I plan to put some staples in that wood grain paper later on. And there you have my stencil. And the ink I selected for it is Old Olive by Stampin' Up. So the first thing I'm going to do is stencil on these journaling blocks. Basically, I'm dying to know what they're going to look like. I have never used this stencil before. So what I'm doing is looking for 3 blocks together that I like. And once I find them, I place it on my page. And I'm using this tape just to hold this stencil in place, number one, but also to mask the other blocks, because there are blocks above and below, and I don't want ink to go on my paper above or below these 3 blocks. So there I use a Picket Fence Studio blending brush. I add a bit of ink, and there you have it. I'm really quite thrilled with those journaling boxes. So now I can continue creating my embellishment clusters. And I'm starting in the bottom right. I start with that large fussy cut flower. Now what you see me doing is tucking in a whole bunch of leaves all around this flower here. And basically I'm going to have 2 main embellishment clusters in kitty corners, so on a diagonal fashion, and then 1 hint of one to create a visual triangle. But right now I'm changing the position of my title. Like I mentioned earlier, I really wasn't thrilled with it underneath that photo, so it's over there on the bottom right now, but I found that there was a big brown spot underneath that horizontal photo, so I do add a shelf there. And a moment ago, that was when I decided I only wanted wood grain papers in my backwards L in those two borders, so I removed that striped paper from Fernwood that was in the vertical border. Now I'm continuing once again, building up that embellishment cluster in the bottom right with that shelf, and I like it better. Now I'm actually adding the leaves in the top left corner of that photo on the left. So all I'm doing is creating a cluster of leaves popping out from around the top corner of that photo. Now I am going to want to add some finishing touches, but at this point I'm liking what I'm seeing, so I am going to move forward and adhere all of these pieces. So I started in the bottom right with the largest piece, the flower. Now I'm tucking in the leaves in and around it. Then what I will do is simply adhere my title. So I'm adhering club on top of the photo, and then I will put med underneath it, and I don't make you watch all of that. So now what I'm going to do is just add a little acorn. Again, fussy cut acorns. I add 2 of them underneath that cluster on the right. And then what I will do is start adhering these leaves in the opposite corner. Now this one's pretty easy. All I'm doing is pulling out each leaf, adding a bit of adhesive, and then tucking it back where exactly I had placed it. So I cut out a bit there simply because I fooled around with a bunch of different pieces and none of them made it on my page. So it was like 10 minutes of wasted time. But sometimes you have to do that. But what I do know I want to do is add some staples to the wood grain paper. So you see me coming in with my tiny attacher, and I'm adding staples in 3 spots. And sorry, I'm a bit off screen because I need it really underneath me to kind of make it look as straight as possible. So I'm trying to show you while trying to please myself at the same time with the positioning of the staples. So they are subtle, but I do like them. They kind of mimic the old broken down building. You can see me standing there. It's basically a ruins of a sugar shack in the Charlevoix region of Quebec. So I figured there must be staples and nails in that wood somewhere. So now I'm coming in with some finishing touches, and I'm looking into the chipboard, and I do find a few word pieces of chipboard in the colors of the leaves. I have them in orange, yellow, and green, and it says something like discovered, picture this, let's document, or document this. So in the end, I end up putting them in the top right, basically at the top of that vertical border, and I am happy with that. And you can also see off camera there, I did already add my journaling. So basically that is it, my finished layout, layout 2 of my 3-part series, 1 sketch, 3 ways. And off camera, I added a few black splatters within the clusters, but not on the white. It's very, very subtle, but I do like it. I also added some foam adhesive behind some of the leaves just to give it a little dimension, but that's it. So here are the 2 layouts side by side. And even though I used the same sketch in the same orientation, each page has their very own look. The material selection totally changes up the mood and feel. One is more vibrant and energetic, and the other one is more serene and woodsy. And the number and size of photos are different too, as is the placement of the journaling. And these small tweaks can really change up the look, even when you're using the very same sketch. Anyway, there will be a few more videos out before I post layout 3 in this series, which will go live towards the end of the month. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.